Another session of Civic Education 2020. So in our discussion today, we'll look into Section A, Section B, and then in the coming videos, I'll do Section C. Okay, so you are welcome everyone, and then consider subscribing to the channel for more videos. Let's get started. Okay, so we start with Section A. So in Section A, we have the question on the Constitution. Okay, so if we look back in Grade 10, we have the Constitution, the questions that are based on the Constitution. So they can ask you like the National Constitution Conference was established under National Constitution Conference Act, okay, 19 of 2007. Okay, so what is the function of the National Constitution Conference? Okay, so if we can review the National Constitution Conference, it is a constitution, basically the National Constitution, okay, conference is also tasked to with the drafting a new constitution, okay. So they draft a new constitution and then submitting to the ministry. So if we look back at this tip, the National Conference, their task is to draft. So when they draft the constitution, then they submit it to the ministry, and then it goes through bills and then amendment. So if there is anything like changing the constitution, first of all, the National Constitution Conference are there. Okay, so we have to know the three bodies that can change the constitution. If we can remember, we have the Constituent Assembly, National Constitution Conference, and then we also have even the Parliament can change the constitution. We have referendum in the Parliament. So those are the bodies that can change the constitution. So in our case here, we have option answers, okay, based on the tip. So the function of the National Constitution Conference is basically it is tasked to draft the constitution. So here we have option answers, adapt new realities and improve the constitution, okay, and then comment on and adopt a constitution based on the inputs of citizens. Examine, debate, and adopt proposals to alter the constitution, and then outline the main, the aims and the purposes of the constitution. So our answer basically is C. The National Constitution basically they examine, debate, and adopt proposals to alter the constitution. So first of all, they first of all examine. Okay, what should be added in the constitution or what should be changed in the constitution. So they add and then they amend. Okay, so I hope we have heard of amendments, and then also constitution review commissions. So the constitution review commissions are some of the commissions that are made in terms of changing the constitution. Okay, so now we have this other question on 2. Okay, Tuatasha was born in Angola and assumed a citizenship of that country. This rule of citizenship is based on it. So if we look back on in Grade 10 on citizenship, there are two types of citizenships. Okay, we have Jasoli, and then also we have Jasanguis. So you have to take note of the two. Okay, so these are naturalized citizenships. So if we look at Jasoli emphasizes on citizenship based on the place of birth. Okay, and one acquires that citizenship. So Jasoli talks about the place of birth. So if we look at this Tuatasha was born in Angola, okay, and assumed the citizenship of that country. So the rule that talks about that is Jasoli. Jasoli deals with the place of birth. And then in some cases also they can ask about Jasanguis. Okay, Jasanguis describes that duration. Okay, so we have to take note of these two, because most of the time these they can be confusing which one is which. So we have to know Jasoli for place of birth, Jasanguis blood relation. Okay, so our answer is D. Okay, we can state place of birth. Okay, and then we have this other question on types of electoral systems. Okay, for this part I'll give out a video on the types of systems. Okay, so we can look at the question. So question 3, which electoral system makes the voters often have little or no contact with the people who represent them? So there are many types of representation systems. Okay, So now the one which has less contact with people is the proportion representation system. Okay, so these viewers, I'll try to make a video about types of systems, their advantages, and so forth, how they usually operate. So I will make a video on this part. Okay, so in our case, if you look at the system, I'll give a tip. Voters in this system usually vote, okay, vote party list rather than an individual candidate. So if you look at the particular proportional system, the proportional system basically has in this particular system, voter system, we can say usually vote party list rather than individual candidate. So there is no contact. So voters, they will just vote for the party. Okay, the party list. Like for example, if we have a party, I know in the country we have parties. We have UPND, we have PF, we have Citizen First, we have EEF, we have many types of parties. So what they do in this particular proportion system, they will give a list of candidates. So there will be less contact. Okay, so we have to know proportional representation system. Okay, so our answer there is B, and then we move on to the other one. Okay, so we have question 4. Why are the 1972 Stockholm, okay, Declaration of the United Nations Conference on the Environment and the 1992 Rio Declaration on the Environment and Development as a soft laws? Okay, so this is because they have been. Now, first of all, you need to know what a soft law is. Okay, what are soft laws? So I'll give a tip on what soft laws are. So when you look at soft laws are non-binding, okay, norms and principles that guide the state behavior or cooperation on certain issues. So that's the definition for soft laws. Okay, so in here, if we look at our answer, there are option answers there. Okay, so we can say enacted into legally binding documents. Okay, so there we have, I'll just go direct to the answer. Okay, so we have enacted into legally binding documents. Okay, so if we see here, this is because they have not been enacted into legally binding documents. So if we soft laws, basically they are not legally binding. Okay, just like from here, they are non-binding. Okay, so the keyword is non-binding. So soft laws are non-binding norms or principles that guide the state behavior or cooperation on certain issues. So they are non-binding. So here we have, they have started for us a statement. This is because they have not been enacted into legally binding documents. Okay, so that is the answer. So our answer there is A. Okay, then let's look at B. Let's look at question 5. So question 5, the type of corruption that takes place at higher or more senior levels, okay, of corporation, industries, government, and business is called. So if we can review back, there are 3 types of corruptions. Okay, so we have petty corruptions, we have grand corruption, and then we have political corruption. Okay, so now if you look at the corruption that involve huge sums of money, okay, at higher senior levels, we call that as grand corruption. Okay, so when you are describing the grand corruption, you can say it takes large sums of money or high-ranking officials who abuse their power to influence policies, laws, or regulation of their own benefit. So that's what grand corruption is about. Okay, so our answer here is A. Okay, so that's our answer. Then we look at question 6. Which of the following factor of culture affects the appreciation of cultural diversity that may lead to some cultures being misunderstood? Okay, so here there are 2 answers that are colliding. Okay, so mostly to say, if we look at stereotype basically also talks about the negative prejudice. Okay, so the stereotyping mostly deals with the perception, okay, or misjudging people the way they are based on cultural practices and so forth. Now, in here, this question had some mixed things. It had mixed things in it. So here we are looking at cultural diversity. So for cultural diversity, I can recall this. I can set this to be relativism. Okay, because relativism, where you treat one culture to be more better than the other one. So that is the cultural relativism. Okay. So if we review, the following factors of culture affect appreciation of cultural diversity that may lead to some cultures being misunderstood. So we have misunderstanding. So when it comes to misunderstanding, okay, therefore we can say this is stereotyping. I can refer this to be stereotyping. But when one is treating one culture to be better than the other one, then that is relativism. Okay, and then stereotyping, where you have negative or pre-knowledge, okay, of one culture not to be good, or you have negative thoughts about that culture. So that can be stereotyping. So here we have misunderstanding. So our misunderstanding there, it is pointing to stereotyping. But when you're treating one culture to be better than the other, then it's relativism. Okay, so if you please, there are some any suggestions, you can put the comments, okay, on the answer, so that we share the knowledge that we have D as one of the answer. Okay, so we go to the other one. Okay, so on the other side also we have question 7. So question 7, the government institution that works with the civil societies and the other government departments to rehabilitate victims of substance abuse, okay, is there. So we have the institution that has a mandatory task, okay, which carry out healthy rehabilitation. Okay, it also promotes civic education. Then also it cubes people who usually abuse drugs. So we call that one as a Drug Enforcement Commission. Okay, so if we look at the Drug Enforcement Commission, we can say is the Drug Enforcement Commission is to prevent and control the illicit drug trafficking and the abuse in Zambia. Okay, it works with the civil societies and the other government departments to provide counseling, treatment, and services to substance abusers. So there is the counseling and treatment to substance abusers. Okay, so we have that department to be the Drug Enforcement Commission. Okay. So let's roll on, dear viewers, to this other question 8. So we have question 8 there. The question states, okay, when did the United Nations make the declaration on elimination of all forms of discrimination against women? Okay, so these were some declarations that were made by the United Nations. Okay, so there were many, and I'll create a video about this also. Okay, and then so forth you will see from. So I'll give a tip on the United Nations Declaration of all forms of discrimination against women. So the tip is the United Nations, okay, was enacted in 1979. Okay, recognized the need for human rights instrument. Okay, that recognizes directly women issues, protect and promote their social and economic rights. So here the particular United Nations for elimination of all forms of discrimination against women, it focused on issues that affect women. That's what is important. Okay, so it was enacted in 1979. Okay, so that was the period of time it was enacted. So our answer there, we have C. Okay, and then we move on to the other question. Okay, so we have questions on the civil society. So the question goes on to state, study the table about the civil society organization and answer the questions that follow. So we have the civil society, and then the objective, and then the classification. Okay, so if we can remember there, where we have international organization, if you can remember, then we have civil organization, and then we have industrial organizations. So we have to take note of the type of organizations which are there. Okay, so, and then what they usually, and then their objective. What is their objective? Okay, so we have the first one. The first one is the International the Transparency International Zambia. So the Transparency International Zambia TIS, okay, its objective is to lobby or to advocate zero tolerance against corruption. That's the objective of TIS. Okay. So, and then also others like the Young Women Christian Association, for example, it offers legal advice to vulnerable groups, especially children. Okay. And then we have labor movement. Labor movement safeguard the interest of the workers. So workers who are in industrial jobs, they are safeguarded by a labor movement. Okay, so this one is an industrial organization. Okay, so it deals with the factors that deal with work and also the condition of service. That's what it looks at. And then the examiner went on to ask, what is the objective of A? So A is Transparency International Zambia. So we can say it advocates and lobby for zero tolerance towards corruption. So that's one of the answers. Okay, so we can say A is our answer. And then we have question 10. Which pair is true about the civil society organization? Marked B. And classification of the organization marked C. So here we have B, the civil society. So this is the Young Women Christian Association. So here we can say Young Women Christian Association. And then the classification, basically if we look at classification, is a civic organization. Okay, this one which is Young Women Christian Association, it's a civic organization. And then also we have C, basically, which is a labor movement. It safeguards the interest of workers. And then it is an industrial organization. So C is an industrial organization. So the answer that corresponds to Young Women Christian Association, we have B. And then the industrial organization, we have C. Okay, so our answer, dear viewers, we have B. And then we move on to the other part, to the other question. So on the other question there, we have question 11. Which of the following statement explain the civil society? So a civil society, in definition, if you can remember the definition of a civil society, as we just start the topic, we can say a civil society is a non-governmental organization and individuals who make their business to promote and defend the good governance. Okay, and defend the good governance. Okay, or good governance. So these other ones, like for example, non-governmental institution formed to influence the policies and decisions on a particular subject. So the civil society does not target to influence the decision only. It usually tries to promote the good governance by influencing the decisions. Because here you can think of they influence the decisions, but exactly on what type of thing are they influencing the decision of the government? So their target is to defend the good governance. Okay, defend the good governance. So that is the target. So when answering here, you have to be more careful because you can jump to this one, but this one has nothing, okay, of which the civil society is trying to achieve. So the achievement of the civil society is to defend the good governance. Okay, so our answer there is C. And then we can go to this other question, which is question 12. Mr. Mungole neighbor always beats his wife. Okay, you are a police reserve in Mongole's neighborhood, and one day his wife brings a report to you. How would you handle this case? Okay, advise Mr. Mungole wife to. Okay, so Mr. Mungole wife has to report to the victim support unit. Okay, because if you look at this question is coming from gender-based violence. Okay, so under gender-based violence, we have the victim support unit, the Zambian victim support unit, if it is in Zambia. Okay, so this particular unit, it was made to hear matters that deal with gender-based violence. Okay, especially to married couples. Okay, because they believe that married couples have to resolve their conflict, okay, or misunderstanding in the victim support unit, especially wife battering. Wife battering should be addressed to the victim support unit, so that the person who is violating or who is in violation of other person's right has to be disciplined. Okay, or sometimes they have to rehabilitate that person. So that person should be reported to the victim support unit. So the victim support unit does not only arrest, but it also provides counseling. Okay, so we have C as an answer. And then here we have the question on the legal system. Question 13. Why is the burden of proof essential in the legal system? So the burden of proof, if we look at the definition, okay, or we look at the meaning of the burden of proof, the burden of proof presents sufficient and credible evidence, okay, to convince the judges that the accused person is beyond the reasonable doubt. Okay, so it just presents sufficient and credible information or evidence. Okay, so it convinces the judges to see that the person is beyond the reasonable doubt. So here, if we check for classification of crime by a judge, no, this is not an answer. So to save time, we have B. So to allow prosecution to prove the offender beyond the doubts. So that is the importance of the burden of proof. Okay, so the answer there is B. Okay, and then we go to this other question, which is the question 14. The type of economic system in which decisions are making is distributed among various economic agents, okay, or localized within production units is referred to as C. So if we look at decentralized planning, okay, so decentralized planning, if you look at the definition, decentralized planning can involve different levels of participation and coordination by different actors, such as producers, workers, managers, and local governments. Okay, so it takes a lot of people. We have agents. Okay, so we have different actors. So we have producers, workers, local government, and even agents. They are part of. Okay, so if we see here, this is decentralization. Okay, so our answer there, which we have, is B. Okay, so our answer is B, and then we can see this other one, 15. Regionalism is an attitude of people believing that their religion is the best, okay, and the only true religion. This is one of the causes of religious conflicts. Okay, this statement teaches that. So here the examiner was trying to find out from pupils if they know the definition of conflict. Because if you look at the causes of conflict, we have religion, history, and then also we have poverty, we have immigration, and so forth. So those are causes of conflict. So now if we see the answer there, which talks about conflict in definition, we can state misunderstanding cause conflict. So this was just a definition of a conflict. Okay, so you can say misunderstanding causes the conflict. So our answer there is B. Okay, and then we have 16. Which of the following is the best way of addressing child abuse? Okay, so when a child is abused, how can we address child abuse? So we have enacting stiff punishment, no. Frightening the abusers, no. Then reporting to the police, of course. So reporting to the police is the best method of addressing child abuse. Because if you don't report the matter to the police, then the person who is abusing children will continue. Okay, so you have to report the case to the police, because the police handles the child abuse. Okay, so our answer there is C. Then we go to the other question. So on the other question, we have question 17. Okay, so the United Nations Convention Against Corruption is the most is one of the most recent human rights instruments to be recognized by the United Nations General Assembly. The following are the main areas covered by this instrument, except now we have to know the areas of the United Nations. I'll give a tip about the United Nations, okay? Which is against corruption, the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. So these ones, if you look at them, the United Nations Against Corruption, we can state the Nation Against Corruption has four areas, has four main areas. So those areas are prevention, asset recovery, and then international cooperation. but the one which is not there is investigation. Investigation is not there. Okay, so if we look at the other ones, this one is there, this one is there, criminalization and then prevention. But what is not there is investigation. They do not investigate. Okay, so there we have that part. Then we can look at question 18. Mzumbu, a young boy, became a soldier and he was taken away from his family after a civil war. Okay, he was brought back to his family. This is referred to as, okay, so we have recovery and reintegration. Okay, so I hope this part is, if you look at the Convention for Child's Rights, okay, that particular part when it comes to Bill of Rights, and then also the documents that are binding, that are not legally binding. So we have Convention against the Child's Rights. So if we see from there, recovery and reintegration are processes that aim to restore the well-being and dignity of children who have been affected by armed conflicts. Okay, so this is, we call this as recovery and reintegration. Okay, so from this tip we have recovery and integration, that is referring to, okay, he was brought back to his family. Okay, so he was brought back to his family, so that is the restoration. Okay, so we have D as an answer. And then we have question 19. The small-scale farmers in Rugwe village, okay, have continued to be dependent on the government, despite receiving subsidized farming inputs. Okay, which statement best evaluates the possible negative impact on government for not winning, okay, farmers from subsidies. Okay, so if we look at subsidies, we have to know the definition of a subsidy. Okay, because we might be getting along the way with the term subsidy, then you don't know the meaning of it. So we have to first of all look at the meaning of subsidy. So a subsidy in form, okay, subsidies are financial or material assistance, okay, that the government provides to a certain sector or grouping or groups to support their production or consumption of goods or services. So that's a subsidy. Now, if we see from here, among the option answers here which we have, okay, so it is the responsibility of the government to subsidize farmers. Okay, this one commonly, yes, is the one, but commonly no. Okay, so if we look at the statement, so which statement best evaluate the possible negative impact on the government for not winning farmers from subsidies? So exactly, farmers, they are dependent on subsidies. What would be the negative impact on the government? So B, the government can recover the money by producing the price of the inputs. So this is not the answer. Okay, C, the government may benefit after the farmers export maize. Okay, so this one is one of it. Okay, so we can state, so also for this one. Okay, so we can state this one here, we can state, let me see first clearly. So we can state this one is the best option, answer D. We can say the government may fail to sustain the inputs and end up in debts. Yeah, of course. So here, which statement best evaluates the possible negative impact on government for not winning farmers from subsidies? So if farmers, they are still on subsidies, the government will be in debts. Okay, the government may fail to sustain the inputs and end up in debts. Because the farmers, basically, let me say the government will be worrying, what will we give the farmers? Okay, so the government will start borrowing money for putting farmers on the farming program support. Okay, so in Zambia we have FISIP. Okay, so that farming program, input support program, it is there to address farmers with the inputs. Okay, so our answer there is D. Okay, sorry for that, for taking C. So we have D, and then we move on to this other one, question 20. Okay, so the country X used different ways to calculate its gross domestic product. Okay, which of the following is not one way in which gross domestic product may be calculated by adding up the, so if we see gross domestic product, I'll give a definition from here. Gross domestic product is the total value in money of the goods and the services produced in the country per year. So that is gross domestic product. Okay, so if we see from the option answers, we have C, the value of all goods and services exported. Okay, so here gross domestic product. Okay, so the following. Okay, so if we see here, which of the following is not a way or one way in which gross domestic product may be calculated by adding up the value of all goods and services exported. So we have this one as an answer. So gross domestic products talks about the goods that are produced in the country per year. Okay, so it doesn't look at what has been exported. So our answer there is C. Okay, then we go to section B. Okay, so in section B it's 40 marks we have to take note of, and then the questions which we had from here, one started with corruption. Okay, so there the examiner went on to state there are 5 questions in this section. Answer all questions in the answer booklet provided. So you'll be provided with a booklet. Okay, and then from there you write the answer. Okay, now we have question 1. Study the pictures depicting forms of corruption. Okay, below and answer the question that follow. Okay, so here we have this person in the national tender. If we see they are communicating, there is a discussion in between the two. Then this person is appearing to provide to give money. Okay, so we have this picture, and then we have B. Okay, where a person, a motorist, and the actual policemen, they are more exchanging bribes. Okay, so they can ask a question like, for example, A, identify the form of corruption depicted in A and B. Okay, so if you look at the type of corruption that is being depicted there, so we have picture A. So picture A, if we see it, we have bribery. Okay, so we have bribery. So if you look at bribery is the act of giving or receiving money or other benefits in exchange for influencing the outcome of the decision. So like for example here, if you look at the discussion that is being made for between the two, so there is this person trying to bribe, and then he is expecting the outcomes either to win the contract or not. Okay, so that's what we have there. Okay, and then also B, if we look at B, we have extortion. Okay, so we have picture B. So picture B is describing extortion. Okay, where the particular person, the police officer, is using his authority, okay, as a policeman to get money from motorists. Okay, so it can be by use of threats and so many other forms of means to get money from motorists. Okay, so we have that, and then we have B. Explain briefly the form of corruption depicted in picture B. Okay, so the form of corruption depicted from picture B. So if we see from there, okay, so we can state. So the form of corruption, we can say the police, the officer in B is using his authority as a law enforcer to demand money from the motorist by either threats, arrest, or harm if he does not comply. So if this person does not comply, if we see, if this person is not complying to what the policeman is trying to do, he will be arrested. Okay, we see this mostly in borders, roadblocks, and then also any point where the police have make a traffic jam. They usually do this most of the times. Okay, so that is the corruption. So this police officer is using authority. And then we have question C. How does the corruption take place in the following? Okay, so how does corruption take place in the following? So I want you to see from this part. Okay, so how does corruption take place in the following? Oh, the question is here. So if we look at abuse of power, okay, so when there is an abuse of power, so when we state abuse of power, this is the act of using one's position or authority for personal gain, okay, or benefit others at the expense of the public interest. So that is the abuse of power. And then also we have conflict, okay, conflict of interest. So when it comes to conflict of interest, this is the situation where a person has a private, okay, or personal interest that influences or make influence the performance of his duties or responsibilities. So that is the conflict of interest. And then the other one which we have is fraud. Okay, so fraud, basically, if we look at it, fraud is the act of deceiving someone for personal gain or causing loss to another person. So a person can just come with a program, like for example an empowerment program, and then from there he collects money from people and then it disappears. So that is fraud. Okay. Then on the other part also we have state one negative effect of corruption on both society and the economy. So the effect of corruption on both the society and the economy, we can state corruption undermines trust and confidence in the public institution. Okay, so if you look at public institutions like courts, if a court is so corrupt, you can't trust it. It is it's of no credibility. Okay, that one is undermined. Okay, people will start doubting. If you take a case in the courts, judges are corrupt and so forth, then the matters basically will be judged wrongly. So you ensure the courts should be corrupt free, and then also should judge matters based on the evidence at hand. Okay, so that makes the courts to be more credible, accountable, and also transparent in their duties. And then also it weakens the rule of law and the democratic values. So these are some of the effects. Okay. Then the last one, if you look at the last question, what role does the Public Accounts Committee (PAC) play in its fight against corruption? So what does PAC do in fighting against corruption? So we can state PAC as the public. Okay, the role of the Public Accounts Committee, which is PAC, okay, in the fight against corruption is to examine and scrutinize the editable accounts and the reports of the editor on public funds. Okay, funds are spent. Okay, but there was to be how funds are spent. Okay, by the government, ministries, departments, agencies, and the statutory bodies. So that is the role of PAC. Okay, so we now move on to the other question. Okay, so on the other question there we have question 2. Explain the behavioral traits of the youth abusing drugs. So this question is coming from drug and substance abuse. Okay, so this topic is important. Like the ones who be writing 2022, let me say the ones who be writing this 2024 exam, please in tables, you have to at least look at this question. Okay, this substance abuse is very important. Okay, it can come as an essay question, and also it can come in section A and then even C. Okay, so C question, section C, section B, and section A, there is one question on substance abuse most of the times. So we need to know especially behavioral traits, and then also street names for drugs, and then also we need to know the actual effects of substance abuse. Okay, and then also ways of making the society, or ways of reducing substance abuse. Okay, so there are ways of reducing substance abuse. I hope you're able to remember reasoning and so forth. So those ones you have to give them, you have to know them. Okay, as you are preparing for the exam. So let's try to look at the behavioral traits associated with the substance abusers. So we have one. There is adventurous or thrill-seeking. Okay, so this is one of the disorders. So we have the behavioral traits. We have adventurous and the thrill-seeking. So those people who abuse drugs, most of the times you find them moving around. Okay, and then also thrill seeking. Okay, so they don't usually sit on one point, they move around, okay, to look for drugs. And then we have mood changes. Mood changes are some of the signs. Okay, so these signs of emotional instability and distress that may result from drug abuse. Okay, these can be temper, okay, flare-ups, and then irritability and defensiveness. Okay, so this is one of the particular traits. Okay, then also we have addiction behavior. Okay, so it involves engagement in rewarding behavior despite the negative consequences. So this is one of the associated traits. Okay, and then also we have poor academic performance, loss of discipline and less motivation in school, which might result into being chased or suspension. So there is also suspension which is given to pupils who are substance abusers. Okay, and then also we have psychiatric and depression disorder. Okay, these are mental disorders that may increase the risk of drug abuse. Okay, so most of the psychotic disorders, and then also depressive disorders. For those people, they appear so depressive. Okay, so they may resort to substance abusers for their survival. Okay, and then also we look at the other question. The other question that we have, okay, on this part we have answer question 3. Answer the following question under the Bill of Rights. Okay, so the first question was what is the Bill of Rights? Okay, so a Bill of Rights in definition, okay, we can define it as a Bill of Rights is the part of the Constitution of Zambia that provide for fundamental rights and freedoms of groups in Zambia. Okay, so this is mostly present in chapter 3 of the laws of Zambia, if you can remember. Okay, so we have the Bill of Rights in there present. Okay, and then also we have the other question. So in the other question we have why is the Bill of Rights in Zambia not easily amended? Okay, why is it not easily amended? Okay, so the reason why it's not easily amended, we can say it requires a referendum to approve any amendments and the approvals of 2/3 of the National Assembly. So it has to go through referendum. So referendum is the voting of the Constitution. Okay. Yes, and then also we have the thirds of the National Assembly. So it has to pass through the bills and then so forth, it becomes a law. So that's one of the reasons. And then we look at this other question. Okay. Question C. What does the Constitution provisions in the Bill of Rights reflect? So what does the constitutional provisions of the Bill of Rights reflect? So if you look at the Constitution in the Bill of Rights, it reflects the Constitution provisions in the Bill of Rights reflect the values and the aspiration of the people of Zambia, such as democracy, constitutionalism, and the respect for human rights. So that's what it focuses on. Okay, and then we have question D. Mention 2 articles that are non-derogatable. Okay, so there are 2 articles. Okay, so then the 2 derogatable articles. Okay, so we can state article number 28. Article 28. Okay, the right to life. Okay, so this article provides that a person has the right and shall not be deprived, okay, of life intentionally except for a capital offense. Okay, and then also we have the other article, article number 30, protection from human treatment and security of a person. Okay, it provides that a person has the right not to be subjected to torture, okay, or treated punishment in a cruel form. So these 2 articles, we have to know them. They are non-derogatable articles, okay, which are in the Constitution. So the Constitution has many articles, and then I will also create a video about articles. So we need to know some articles because this time around the examiner asks about articles. Okay, so it's important that you know at least some articles. Okay, and then the other question is we have E. Okay, state two ways of enforcing a Bill of Rights. So there are two ways of enforcing a Bill of Rights. So if we see from the two ways of enforcing the Bill of Rights, one, by applying the constitutional court if the rights and freedom are violated. Okay, so we have the constitutional court. Okay, so when you apply to the constitutional court, if the rights and freedoms are violated, that's one way of enforcing the Bill of Rights. Then also the second one, by submitting the complaints with the Human Rights Commission if the rights and freedoms are violated or threatened by a public officer or body. Okay, so these are two ways of enforcing the Bill of Rights. Okay, then we go to the other question. Okay, on teenage pregnancies, the entry policy, and then the negatives, okay, or demerits of the entry policy. So the examiner went on to make a question about the entry policy. Study the table below showing the views of the entry policy. So type of respondents, percentage of member for the entry policy, percentage of member against the entry policy, and then we have total. Okay, so the first part we have church members. So church members who are in support of the entry policy. Okay, so a percentage of them we have 32, and then the percentage of members against it, they are 68. Then the total is 100. Okay, and then politicians we have 80 who are in support. Then those ones who are against, they are 20, and then 100. Parents we have 40, and then those ones who are against 16, and then we have 100 in total. Okay, now the first question is, what is the aim of the re-entry policy? Okay, so when you look at the entry policy, the aim of the re-entry policy is to guarantee girls to stay in school as long as they choose to during pregnancy. So a girl might become pregnant, so he has to choose to remain in school, okay, or take maternity leave and return to school, either the same school or other. So that is after delivery. Okay, so most girls, they get pregnant, and then from there they stop school. So the entry policy emphasizes that girls should be in school and then should go back in school after they deliver. Okay, and then we have the second question. So the second question is on B1, which category of respondents had the highest percentage in favor of the entry policy? So those ones who are favoring or who are supporting the entry policy. So let's look at the numbers here. We have the church members. Okay, church members 32, and then percentage who are against the state. So these were not in support. Okay, we have politicians. The percentage which was supporting was 80, and then against the entry policy we had 20. So these ones were the ones which were in support, and then this one, parents were 40. Then the ones who were against were 60, and then total was 100. This one were not in support. So the ones who were in support of the entry policy, we can state those were politicians. Okay, so politicians were the ones who were in support of the entry policy. Okay, so therefore we can state our answer there. We can state the politician with 80%. So these were people who are in support with the entry policy. Okay, so let's look at this other one. And then two, which category of respondent had the highest percentage against the entry policy? So those ones who had the highest percentage against. So let's look at the biggest number here. So we can see here the church members were against. Okay, so they were 68. So these were against. So there we can say the church members. Okay, so the church members were against, which had 68%. Okay, and then we look at the other side. Okay, which is C. Give two reasons the respondents mentioned in B1 were against the entry policy. Okay, now if we look at the respondents in B1 there, okay, who are in favor, okay, what are some of the reasons where they were against the entry policy? The particular to states, the politicians, okay. So let's see exactly. So here the reasons they were against the particular entry policy was other girls might emulate the bad example of girls that got pregnant in school and become pregnant too. Because this is one of the idea that makes teenage pregnancy to be high. Because most of the girls they copy. If they see one is pregnant, and then they will be like, also let me get pregnant. Okay, because the parents they don't care or no one cares. This norm is good. So that is one of the common cause of teenage pregnancies. And then also the other one, they believe that the entry policy encourages immorality. Okay, and then promiscuity, and then also among girls and undermines their religious values. So that's one of it. Okay, so we have the two reasons. Okay, and then we can look at the other question. So the other question is D. How beneficial is the re-entry policy to the girl child? Okay, so the re-entry policy, if you look at the benefits, so the benefits of the re-entry policy, it enables continuity in education and pursuing her academic goals and aspirations. Okay, so that's one of it. Okay, yes, and then we look at this other one. Okay, we have E. State two economical factors affecting global disparities in education. So if you look at global disparities, there are main factors that bring about global disparities. So we have one, poverty, okay, and then limited visual resources, inadequate funding. So these factors they bring about disparities in academics, okay. And then we look into the other question. So we have we have question 5. Answer the following questions relating to the United Nations Sustainable Development Summit of 2015. Okay. So the first question was explain sustainable development. Okay. So sustainable development, we can say sustainable development is the development that meets the present needs without compromising the future needs. Okay. So that is sustainable development. Okay. Then looking at the second one, what is the aim of sustainable development goals? So the aim of sustainable development goals, one, okay, the aim of the sustainable development is to provide a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet, okay, now and in the future. So this is one of the aim of the sustainable development, okay. And then we look at this other one, okay. We have question C. State two sustainable development goals, okay. So the two sustainable development goals, we have goal number 3, okay. So these are the goals which are there in the articles. So we have good health and the well-being. Yes, this was the well-being, okay. And then it ensures health lives and promotes the well-being of every individual, okay, of all ages. So here it was well-being like that, okay, well-being, okay, well-being, okay, you just pardon the handwriting, okay. So there it was to be well-being, okay. So well-being. So there we have that goal number 3, and then we have also goal number 2, zero hunger. Okay, end hunger, achieve food security, and improve the nutrition. Okay, and promote sustainable agriculture. So these are the 2 goals. Okay, and then we look at this question D. Okay, which of the sustainable development goals aims at providing affordable and clean energy? Okay, so this goal. Okay, so we have goal. We have goal 13. Let me say we go number 7. Okay, so we have goal number 7. If you look at D, okay, so it aims goal 7. So this goal aims at to ensure access. Okay, so if we look at the parts, okay, so we have that that part. Okay, yes. So there we can even have this one. Okay, mention 2 strategic long-term focus for sustainable development. Okay, so this one I leave it to you as viewers. Okay, so you can put your comments in the section. Okay, as we continue to the other section. Okay, so please subscribe to the channel. Okay, for more videos that are there. Okay, so please subscribe. And then also for online tuitions, please, if you are interested in online tuitions, okay, you can call on the number 07768523554. Okay, so please stay tuned to the channel, subscribe, share the videos, and invite more others who are new to the channel. Please, they are welcome.